Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Spoiler Warning podcast. Working title. I'm not sure what exactly we're going to call this. Yeah, the Spodcast.
God,
holy
no.
shit! Chris knocked it out of the park. We're the Spodcast. We could stop worrying about that forever. We are now the Spodcast. We can't stop being the Spodcast.
I want to stop being the Spodcast.
You can't!
It sounds like some stupid 3 a.m. workout thing that you get, like, you know, those infomercials you get on TV.
Well, I guess
Work
that's
out
what we're
with
about
the
now.
Spodcast. Pull the Spodcast.
I mean, that's...
Push the Spodcast.
I guess that's what we're doing now.
That is not a completely inaccurate description of what we do on a general basis, so...
It sounds like a podcast about, like, the sexual organism or organs of a plant for some reason. The Spodcast.
Okay, no, that's
hey, Chris,
what we're
you want to see
doing.
my pistol?
Chris is just a good ideas machine today.
Oh, no.
I'm Josh. I'm joined by Chris, who was supposed to say hello, but I guess...
We're still figuring out... we're figuring this out.
I don't know.
We're rebuilding...
Chris.
How long have you guys been doing this?
Well, this is the first one. We're
One
rebranding.
episode.
This is a brand
One
new
episode
adventure.
glitch.
Oh, no.
Also here is Glitch.
Hello.
And
Wait, was I not
Rutskarn.
supposed to say anything? Damn it.
No.
Hello,
You're
I'm
supposed to be
Rutskarn,
quiet.
and welcome to the Spodcast.
No, we cannot. That is not the name of this show. That is not going to take off. But executive decision here. That is not what we're calling this.
Oh, no.
Alright, I'll finish the graphics as soon as we finish recording here.
God damn it. Right, so,
Wow.
some of you may be wondering what the hell this is. We are too, but more specifically, I mean, why we're doing a podcast on the channel now and not continuing to do the diecast on 20-sided. And that's because for the, I don't know, 5 of you who haven't already heard through some means, spoiler warning is parting ways with 20-sided. And I don't really want to get too much into the details of why this happened or what led up to this decision. Suffice it to say, Seamus and the rest of us disagreed on certain aspects of comment moderation, and ultimately we mutually decided that it would be best for us to move the show off the site and allow it to evolve in its own direction. So, because we like doing a podcast, we're doing a podcast here on the show now too.
Yeah.
And if you
We're
really want to
doing
learn
something no
more
one's ever
about
done.
this, yeah, it's something
putting
that
a
no one has
podcast on
ever
YouTube.
done. Exactly.
We're
It's not
pioneers.
even allowed. We had to pay off a bunch of guys to let us even upload this thing. If you really want to learn more about the specifics of what happened, I'll link the Patreon post and maybe Seamus's post down in the description here. But bottom line, spoiler warning is moving more into being a YouTube channel with a YouTube channel sort of schedule. And we intend to expand the sort of content that we're doing. We're not going to stop doing things like long-form Let's Plays or anything like that, but we're going to hopefully be able to do more with things like the 20 minutes with kind of segments, the quick look segments, as well as crazy off-the-wall shows like the Astroneer short that we just uploaded last week. So stay tuned to see what the hell's happening there. And let's move on with this podcast, whatever the hell this is.
Spodcast.
No. What was your point, Glitch? I was going to say something else.
Yes?
I was
What?
just saying no Spodcast. I knew Ruts was gonna say it. I knew it. I'm just saying no Spot. Get that Spot out of here.
That doesn't even, like... Is that like a space pod? Like, what?
I'm picturing, like, Spud with, like, a potato.
Okay, well, hang on. I see what the problem is. Alright, so it's an acronym, Josh. The S stands for Spodcast.
No.
The P stands for please refer to the letter S, which stands for
So
Spodcast.
it's a recursive acronym?
No. I didn't tell you what Spodcast stands for.
Oh, wow. I just looked up Spodcast. There actually already is a Spodcast.
All right, well, I
Fuck
guess that
off.
settles that then.
Oh, wow.
We can't
got beat
have
to
a
the punch.
podcast with the same name as somebody else's.
Oh, wait, no. It's over. It's over. We can still
Yes!
do it.
Well,
Their rate is
Star
over.
Trek is not on air. That doesn't mean I can make a show called Star Trek.
I don't know if copyright
Okay.
and trademarking of podcast names is that rigidly enforced.
No, it's okay. I see
Probably
Josh's
not.
point. I understand. We should obviously call the podcast Star Trek.
Yeah, all right. To very timidly go somewhere,
We're not really sure where.
and we really don't know.
I think going somewhere is a bit optimistic.
Nobody gave us a map.
It's not really a frontier. That should be our motto. Going nowhere very slowly. So, Rutskarn, what's been going on with you lately?
Okay, it's not about what's going on with me. It's about something more important than that.
Okay, see, now you're betraying the fact that before the podcast you were like, hey, teacher, call on me first, and I'll give it. I got stuff to say.
I got something to talk about, but it's not about my affairs, Josh. Not everything's about what I've been
Okay.
doing lately.
All right, I mean, if you want it to be that way.
Okay. So I've stumbled over a case of what I think you could argue is an exceptionally pure good news, bad news situation.
Okay.
It's like it's fractal. Like, the more I look at it, the more I, find myself seeing the good and the inherent in the situation.
Like the name Spodcast, right?
Exactly like the name Spodcast, except if half of the inherent goodness was replaced with inherent badness. Anyway, so here's what's up. You guys know the game Sleeping Dogs, right? We all like that game?
Yeah.
Good video game?
It was pretty good.
Yeah, video game based very strongly on Hong Kong martial arts cliches. It's basically just like a video game of a cliche Hong Kong martial arts movie. So, they're making a Hong Kong martial arts movie based on Sleeping Dogs.
I'm not sure how to feel about that.
Exactly.
Like, what?
It's like a noir movie based on Max Payne. On the one hand, that's a good game. On the other hand, it's also just like a pastiche of all of the cliches of this thing transported into the video game genre. So it's like, who gives a shit? If you just port it back
Is it-
in.
What does based mean here, though? Are they actually making a film in the universe, or
No, they're
just
adapting
taking
Sleeping Dogs.
inspiration?
They're adapting
Okay.
Sleeping Dogs into an action. Oh, here's the other deal, though. So they picked a lead actor for it. It's starring Donnie Yen.
Okay,
Donnie
I'm
Yen's
back
cool.
on board now.
How did
Well,
they
that's the
get
thing,
Donnie
yeah.
Yen on board with this?
On the one hand, Donnie Yen is cool. He's great. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in. On the other hand, he's not Wei Shen, is he?
I mean,
He actually looks a bit like Wei Shen.
yeah, but I think the problem is that you're not going to be able to really, wasn't Wei kind of like, he went away to college and lived in America for 10 years?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're taking a different angle on the character, maybe?
Yeah. Here's a suggestion. Why don't you get Wei Shen to do it? Like the actor who played Wei Shen in Sleeping Dogs, who's also a martial artist.
Oh, really? Is he? Did he do the mocap for it or something?
I don't know if he did the mocap for the martial arts stuff. I kind of doubt it, just because that would be too straightforward for the games industry. But I happen to know
Yeah,
that
that's
he's a
true.
martial artist, and that also he's Wei Shen.
I think obviously, yeah, he would probably be a good choice, but this is much more to do with the economics of, hey, we got Donnie Yen, the great big, up and coming Hong Kong movie star, to be in our weird, like, what does it even mean to be based on a video game that's just literally based on Hong Kong action movies anyway, to be in that film. Like, headlining that with such a recognizable actor, I can totally understand. You know, it's the same sort of thing as, like, why do none of the Hitman movies have the actor that plays Agent 47 as Agent 47, since he is literally the face model for Agent 47 as well as the voice.
Is he still? Has he always been?
Yeah.
Even in the new one? I did not know that, because I thought the new one, he looked different.
I think... I mean, he looks younger in the new one, but...
So, as someone who has never played Sleeping Dogs and didn't really pay attention to that game at all, my biggest question when you started this is Sleeping Dogs popular enough to bring in people to the movie? Because if not, which I haven't heard of it, so I'm going to assume it's not, then that explains the Donnie Yen situation.
Yeah, it's...
I don't even know how this movie is getting made. I'm kind of blown away by that.
There's absolutely no reason why a Sleeping Dogs movie adaptation should have a big-name actor in it. That's the other weird thing. It's like the fact that they're taking it so seriously and making it into a big-budget movie kind of tells me that they're not trying to capitalize on fans of the video game, which makes me wonder how much it's going to have to do with the video game, which is itself based on cliché.
Like, I have to wonder if this is just an example of, like, they were making this big-budget Hong Kong martial arts action movie, and then someone decided to go fishing for some sort of franchise to tie it to, and they came up with somebody on the staff, I don't know, suggested this fucking video game that nobody's ever heard of called Sleeping Dogs.
It's just weird, isn't it?
And there's still no Half-Life movie. Shakespeare.
We don't ever need a Half-Life movie. Ever.
I don't.
That movie was called Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds, or any 1950s sci-fi movie.
I like 1950s sci-fi movies.
Like, do we really want the same Hollywood that just completely fucked up Ghost in the Shell to do Half-Life?
See, I actually would be concerned about it going the other way. I'd be worried they'd be, like, super faithful, and even though Half-Life is thus far a narrative that goes nowhere and has no real answers or meaning behind anything, they'd be very careful to make sure, like, they get the right Vortigaunt animations, and that the Vortigaunts are introduced with a certain level of fanfare that, like, everyone who hasn't played the games are like, okay, they're cycloptic aliens, what?
And they gotta get an actor who can nail Gordon Freeman's Welsh accent.
Well, they just get Ross Scott. I think that's his
oh my
name.
God! If they made a Half-Life movie and they just straight up cast Ross Scott, I would watch it.
I would too. That would be hilarious.
I mean, that would be the best possible scenario. That would be the only acceptable scenario for a Half-Life movie, is if it would just give Ross Scott millions of dollars to develop and star in his own Half-Life movie.
My diploma is worth more than your life.
I could see him pulling it off. Just cut his hair a little bit.
So,
I don't know what Valve would have to say about that, though.
Is this the voice of the Gordon Freeman's Mind thing, or I don't know what this is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, if people haven't seen yet, and you like Half-Life, you absolutely should go watch. It's pretty funny, even if you don't like Half-Life.
Somehow I suspect Campster is literally the only person on the internet who hasn't heard of it by now.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've just never. I mean, it is what we do as performance art. It is long form Let's Play, scripted and performed as he plays the game. And I can't sit down and watch that. That's pretty. That is like a 10-hour investment that I don't have. But I've liked what I've seen of it. It's funny.
Sleeping Dogs is a movie. That's just weird to think about.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the real scope of it is. Are they trying to make it like, you know what was real big 10 years ago? Rush Hour. Let's do another Rush Hour. Or is it more like hey, we've got a few $1 million and it's going to be like a $15 million small, like actual Hong Kong fighting movie that's set and filmed in Hong Kong?
I mean, Rush Hour was one of Jackie Chan's worst films, so...
Right, but it made a buttload of money.
Yeah.
It's not even the best Rush Hour movie.
Yeah, no. As far as Jackie Chan's American stuff goes, I actually prefer his
Noon series.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the first one. I think once you have Shanghai Nights, things get a little goofy.
I mean, yeah, but it was fun. You know,
I mean, all of Jackie Chan's movies are fun.
Yeah, but like it had the comedy down in a way that I never felt Rush Hour really got.
I take that back. The Karate Kid remake was probably not very much fun.
Well, okay, and recently, or at least over the past 5 or 6 years, Jackie Chan has been branching increasingly into more dramatic stuff like the Shinjuku incident, which is very much not a fun film, but also a very good one.
I mean, I think you're all deluding yourselves if you think that Jackie Chan's best work was anything but Jackie Chan Adventures, the cartoon series, and it's pretty much the greatest thing that's ever created.
He didn't even voice himself in that series, right? That's
What?
not Jackie Chan's voice most of the time. I think like the fighting grunts are Jackie Chan. The actual actor who voiced Jackie Chan was not Jackie Chan.
You gotta be wrong about this. I'm gonna say
He
no.
was involved with the show, obviously, but that was not Jackie Chan's English voice.
No, I think you're wrong.
All right, let's check it.
Jackie Chan as himself, in your face, IMDb'd.
Wouldn't that suck to have that be like your most famous role in your resume? Yeah, I'm best known for playing Jackie Chan because he couldn't be fucked.
Jackie Chan live action himself, usually appearing at the end of every episode, interviewed by various children, voiced by James C. Paul Robert Langdon, past first appearance.
All right, well, thank you for having me on the Spodcast, or whatever the fuck that was.
It's not the Spodcast.
It was a Spodcast.
When did that show came out?
Spodcast,
Alec Baldwin
that was like
on the
early
show?
2000s.
Or Adam Baldwin. Okay, that explains.
Is that like the last time we had like a really big celebrity name-led cartoon for kids? Because I don't think that happens much anymore. Like a cross-branded...
I don't know. Sean Spicer's Kung Fu Adventures is doing pretty well.
Oh my god, I would love to see Sean Spicer. It'd just be him getting angry and yelling at people the entire thing. Maybe you were watching Yosemite Sam cartoons.
I think we've lost the plot a little bit here.
Right, so Jackie Chan has to star in the Shenmue movie. What were we talking about before? Sleeping Dogs. There it is.
Oh man, Shenmue would make a better movie.
The Shenmue movie.
We're talking about oh man, I've got a topic for us. Okay, you guys ready for this shit?
Okay.
Quantic Dream games. Would they be better or worse if they were adapted into films?
Worse. But they'd be better. Like, they would not be as good of a film as they are as a game, but because they would be such an inept film, they would be amazing and worth watching. They would be those perfect B-movies where the director, like...
They'd be the good bad movies.
Exactly. Where it starts as, like, a murder investigation, and it ends with, like... some sort of, like, the budget ran out, end of Ava style, like, stop motion thing, and you're like, how did this happen? Where did we go to get here?
They'd be like those quasi-erotic thrillers that were really popular in, like, the 80s and early 90s.
Oh, God, they would, though, yes. David Cage is the Basic Instinct creator of video games for our time.
Oh my god, David Cage is like a worse Paul Verhoeven.
Oh my god, he kind of is. Yeah, that's not fair to Paul Verhoeven. He actually, I'll defend Paul Verhoeven a little bit. He knew how to set up, I don't want to call it subtext because it's not really subtext, but he knew how to deal in themes. I'm not convinced David Cage does know how to do that.
Paul Verhoeven takes his work more seriously and himself less seriously. That's the major distinction between him and David Cage.
That is a good way to put it.
You know, we rag on David Cage a lot, but I'm actually kind of interested in his next game, Detroit Become Human. Like the stuff they were showing at E3 last year looked pretty interesting, and I guess maybe my goodwill towards him is part of the fact that I've never actually played any of his games, so What the hell? Why not?
Okay, no, see, there you go, Josh.
I'm struggling with the whole what if robots were the real innocents and mankind were the real monsters. Like that.
I mean, yeah, sure, it's inept and...
No, it's only the context of having seen a bunch of Quantic Dream games that, like, you can watch those and just see, okay, I immediately know how this is going to become obnoxious. Like, I see where all this is going to fall apart.
Oh, you know what the saying is? The fifth time's the charm. Was Omicron really a David Cage-esque game?
Yes.
No.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Yes and no. Structurally, it's very different. It is an open world, and there's a lot more mechanics, and it doesn't really play like his modern stuff, which is a lot more scene driven. Well, that's the thing, is it is very David Cage insofar as it is very much in love with things that are not video games. It's in love with film and sci-fi books and David Bowie, and also weird fonts that are hard to read.
Well, I mean, you can't be a very good video game without that.
That game is a perfect storm of shit.
It really is.
I actually struggle to find redeeming qualities in Omicron.
I like the theme song.
David.
Which
Bowie.
one?
The David Bowie one, the main one.
Okay. David Bowie did some good songs for that game. I'm not actually sure I would say all of his songs for that game were good.
I mean, you can't do any worse than Paul McCartney on Destiny.
You can't do anything worse than any of the celebrity involvements with Destiny.
Oh, fuck, he did one of the Destiny songs, didn't he? Man, I completely forgot about that.
I'm learning so much.
Not one of the Destiny songs, the one with the lyrics.
Yeah, which I don't even remember. Like, I don't
It's not
remember,
on the soundtrack.
I can't come up with that song. Like, I don't remember where that song played, and I can't, conjure the melody into my head.
I'm pretty sure we just blacked it out, especially since, I mean, how do you even get the credits to roll in that game? We beat the end boss so many times.
You finish Black Garden, right? Like, and then you find out that you're still on Mars, I guess.
Oh, that's right. It only does it when you beat it the first time.
Yeah.
And it plays that stupid cutscene.
Destiny 2 is something else I'm looking forward to. E3's in like a month now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's that micro E3 that they're opening to the public, and
I mean, they're still going to have all the conferences.
Here's the real question: is E3 still relevant at all?
Yes, as a weird arbitrary time to announce crap. I think May is still seen as pretty ideal, especially because
I don't get it. I don't like how people announce games and then they take 3 fucking years to finish them. And
well, they're not so much anymore.
Not even the games you're interested in. Well, that's true, but they could just never say anything about it until like a month ahead of time, and I would be happy.
Look, okay, it may not actually have much significance in like a really like cultural or journalistic sense in a lot of ways. But I think E3 is still significant as, like, the biggest single concentration of Twitch trolls.
Yeah, it would be going too far to say that E3 is no longer significant. It's certainly less significant than it used to be. Like, if you think back, like, the 90s to the early mid-2000s, there wasn't an especially easy way for the average person to just get their hands on video game industry news. It all had to come from like conferences that were filtered through like the very specific big video game journalist websites, and that was about it. And nowadays you can just go to like Reddit and NeoGAF and hear about the leaks and hear about everything.
I'll be honest, I don't even really read
any of that
gaming news websites anymore. I just sort of find out about things.
And that's part of the problem, is that, like Josh said, it used to be the epicenter of all gaming news, and now, like, the Steam new releases thing, or what people are talking about on Twitter, or, you find out about games in a lot more organic ways these days, because that's just the nature of the internet. So what E3 ends up being now is basically a place to stage the hype machine for certain AAA titles. Like Josh was saying, this is what you saw with Bethesda. They are real interested in doing the don't really announce anything until about 6 months before it actually comes out, then announce it and get people hyped so that by the time the game actually comes out, people aren't burnt out on seeing the same stupid things a million times like they were with a certain spacefaring RPG that we only saw pictures of and then it came out. Not that we're all bitter.
Oh, you're talking about Mass Effect Andromeda. I thought you were making a joke about Star Citizen. And then I was going to say, well, it's not out yet, Chris.
Out in air quotes.
I just remember every E3 you would get so angry that all they would show is concept art.
Oh man, it was they did that 3 years in a row of just like, here's our artists in a room drawing some shit on an art tablet that may be in the game. I don't know.
Look, they couldn't have shown in-game footage.
Sold really well.
They couldn't have shown you in-game footage yet because they were still trying to figure out the eyes situation, and at the time, everything in Mass Effect Andromeda looked like it was a Rareware game because the eyes were so huge and cartoonish.
Yeah, because they fixed that.
If only they just released the game with the concept art, then maybe they would have had such a backlash.
It's just a 600-page art book, and there's no game in it.
No, just every character is just like a 60 by 40 thumbnail of the concept art stretched over like a big balloon.
Or you could go back and make sure the concept art does match the game by just adding giant googly eyes to every bit of concept art, and that's your E3 trailer before launch. Oh man, I would pay so much money for someone to take one of those Mass Effect sketches and just go back and digitally add googly eyes over every single character.
Just get a bunch of people with EU accents to talk about your artistic goals and making everybody googly-eyed, and nobody will dare criticize it.
That's been something
when
that
we were
EA has
designing
done a
Mass
lot.
Effect Andromeda, we thought it was very important to, with the eyes, to signify all of the emotions. And so what we've actually done is we've made the eyes larger than usual. We think that this really brings forward a new kind of expressiveness to the video game product.
I want to take like the last couple of sentences you said and just play it over some of the footage of all the really awful facial expressions in Mass Effect Andromeda.
Now, the important thing about these,
I think we're
these
maybe a little late
expressions is
there.
that they're not literal. They're not supposed to be taken as literal expressions. It's a bit like a Nicolas
how are they
Cage film.
supposed to be
They're hyperacting. They get a larger emotional truth through exaggeration.
But how do you explain the fact that they don't look at all in the direction they should? That overacting, or
one thing we want to think a lot about was what would happen to human beings after several hundred years inside cryogenic preservation. And so what we actually decided to do was to create kind of an uncanny valley effect to show that these aren't quite human beings. The idea that people should look at them and they shouldn't exactly know why necessarily, but they should feel a slight sense of alienation, and then they should know exactly why, because it's the weird animations we decided to put in there very deliberately.
I just love the idea. There's like it's everything Rutskarn just said, slowly panning over all this art of things, and then while Rutskarn is reading that, you hear quietly in the background someone being like, "Jim, stop making the goddamn eyes so big."
It's just the Vidlectrix guys.
I like to imagine that Jim is the guy that did the eyes for everything beforehand, so no one else knows how to do them, so nobody can fucking stop him.
It's just
They only have one artist who knows how to draw eyes.
Forward Jim locked eyes can't fix. What the fuck are we gonna do?
It's like reading apocalyptic logs in Fallout. You can just like this.
Alan put iFix here.
This ongoing like growing sense of dread and growing bluster over this like eye problem that they just can't fix until it slowly kills everybody.
And then it's like, guys, I pushed an update that fixes the eyes. It's like, oh, thank Christ! They immediately upload it, and then they look at who pushed the fix too late. And they see it's Jim. It's mid-game. Everybody's eyes are spinning like St. Catherine wheels.
This was basically what Soma was about, right?
Oh my goodness. I want this to be the truth.
I feel bad that we just spent 10 minutes ragging on that game's eyes that have been patched already, but still, it's pretty bad.
In patching the eyes, we made a very conscious artistic decision to stop losing money.
Well, they are known for their artistic integrity. Well, yeah, E3's coming up, and we'll probably do some streams of that, assuming that Twitch still lets us do that. So I've always had fun doing that.
Ooh, I don't think so. Doesn't Twitch not allow you to stream non-gaming content? Like
no, Twitch allows you. They have an explicit thing where you can restream their E3 channel.
But you have
as the conferences are going, and then commentate over it.
Yeah, it's going to be delayed, and in a delay, we'll figure something out.
A little bit. Like it will be delayed from what's actually happening by like 15 or 20 seconds, but that's the case with streams anyway most of the time. Let's change gears a little bit here. Chris, Prey came out a couple days ago. How is it?
Pretty gosh darn good. I'm not quite finished with it yet, but I am really, really enjoying it. It starts very Bioshocky, and basically slowly over time claws its way back into being System Shock, which is kind of cool to watch it slowly transform itself.
So for someone who's only played one of those two games, how does that work in practice? What does that look like, turning into System Shock as opposed to Bioshock? Yes, I've not played System Shock.
For one, inventory matters. Inventory matters, which is kind of cool. It's not inventory Tetris. It's not like... I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. Like, you don't have to...
It's not like Diablo.
Right. It's not like there's like 3x3 and 2x3 and 1x1 and... Yeah. This is more like you only have so much space to carry stuff, and some things take up a couple slots, but generally speaking, you can only carry but so much, and you need to make strategic decisions about what weapons you're going to keep around, because, you know, a good weapon might take up 3 inventory slots, and that makes you kind of choose. It's a little less like that than the original System Shock, which really made you choose. System Shock 1, or System Shock 2, basically made you make hard, permanent choices early on about what your playstyle was going to be. This game starts as more of a Bioshock-style shooter and slowly eases in the idea of, okay, but what if there were all these options? Okay, but also these options. Now how are you going to play the game? And so it sort of slowly opens up. And it takes like 3 to 4 hours before you really sort of start seeing all the systems going on at once. But it's pretty cool.
That's interesting, because like even like the way that opens definitely sounds like a modernization of the System Shock formula of like you have to make hard choices right now. But like even that feels kind of old-fashioned at this point, where a lot of the time you don't have to make real hard choices at all in video games anymore, as far as like loadout and skill tree and so on goes.
I was worried about that, because when they start the game, you're getting what are basically the level up XP, plasmid packs, whatever. You get them pretty frequently, and I was thinking like, oh man, I'm going to fill up the skill tree before I finish the game. This is nothing. And it's only after about that 2 hour mark, 3 hour mark, where you get a second set of skill trees, and you go, oh, okay, now I get why I needed all those upgrade units. So yeah, it does sort of slowly open itself up. Also, System Shock 1 had cyberspace to hack things, where you would literally go inside of a computer and kind of play a Descent knockoff.
You're doing like Ghost in the Shell style hacking.
Yeah, like 6 Degrees of Freedom, flying your way through a completely abstract 3D space. This game doesn't have that for hacking. It has a different hacking mini game that works pretty well, and we can talk about that. But in place of that, what it has is a couple 0G sections out in space where you still have 6 Degrees of Freedom. And it's a kind of a cool callback to System Shock, I think, because it really does do the open up thing of like, there is no up. There is once you get back on the ship, but as long as you're outside the ship, you can freely rotate in any direction. And that's rare that first person shooter games will let you do that, because it can be disorienting pretty easily. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's an 0451 game for those who don't know. It's very, very, very clearly influenced by games like System Shock, Deus Ex, Bioshock.
For those who aren't in the know, 0541 or 451 rather. right? Yeah, refers to the ubiquitous passcode that's in games along the lines of Deus Ex. I think was it Deus Ex that was the first game that had that code somewhere?
System Shock 1 was, I believe, the first.
Okay, yeah, and basically it's just, all these games that have like kind of these RPG elements in a first-person shooter game that has like kind of is somewhat non-linear, at least in the sense that you can kind of explore an area at your own discretion, and you maybe have upgrades in an inventory. Generally, they'll sort of put in this code somewhere to signify that they belong to this pedigree, kind of to this strain of development sensibilities.
Oh man, I want to talk about 0451, but I'm not going to. I'm going to save it for my script. Anyway, there are lots of little things I like about it. I'm trying to be careful not to go on too much of a monologue here, but like I like the fact that the AI is kind of interesting. For example, they stole some mechanics from Prop Hunt, the TF2 mod, which is not something I would expect a AAA game to do. And basically what they did is, you know how in System Shock 2, they would constantly spawn the zombie monsters all around you so that there was always tension, so you couldn't just clear a level and be done. To make sure that there's still always monsters around you in this game, they spawn in things that are called mimics, and the mimics mimic random objects in the game world, and if you get too close or try to interact with those objects, they turn away from being the object that you think they are and turn back into being a monster and try to get you. And that's pretty neat. Keeps things kind of tense.
Booze?
Yeah, booze, chairs, health packs, books,
No, like
mugs.
Not like booze, alcohol. I mean like booze in Super Mario.
No, what? What? I'm confused.
I mean,
like the way that booze don't attack you when you're looking at them.
No, you can be looking at them. If you try to get too close or if you try to interact with them, they'll attack you back.
Okay. All right, I see.
Really what this means is that in practice, you'll walk into a room with duplicates of a single item and immediately get suspicious and just start whacking the shit out of everything that has more than one of them in the room. There's 2 computers in here. There's never been a room with 2 computers in it, and you just start wailing on every single piece of equipment in the room. It's fun.
That's amusing. Can you damage equipment that you need?
Yes and no. There are some pieces of equipment you can damage that then become like dangerous, and you have to use your repair skill to fix. Things like electrical walls that can also be used as traps. But if you just whack it with a wrench, it will start arcing electricity. But no, generally you can't like damage things you actually need. Also, I like the AI because the AI can teleport and it tries to set traps for you, and also runs away and hides because they're scared of you sometimes. I haven't enjoyed fighting an AI this much since I think Half-Life 1. Which
Interesting.
Is kind of high praise, I guess. It's not like it's smart.
Yeah, well, it's weird that Half-Life 1 is still kind of the benchmark for really good like first-person shooter AI.
It is kind of sad, and I think the reason for that is that like Half-Life 1 managed to do this thing where you could sort of infer intent from both animation and what they were doing. Like, oh, he's running away. It's not because the AI is dumb and thinks I'm on the other side of the level. He's running away because I shot him 4 times, and he's trying to get a better angle. And it's hard to do that in a video game. Like, it's hard to do that and not look stupid. Because if you have the bad guys just all suddenly decide to run away, it just looks like they're all terrified of you. So, but no, in this game, it's pretty cool that, you know, they will run away and hide if they've been damaged a lot by you, and you have to go find them before they heal. I like it. I'll stop talking too much about it because I don't want to monologue, but I would like to see you guys. Oh, go ahead.
I was interested if you want to talk a little bit about the story, like no spoilers, but give a general idea of is it good?
Yeah. So Chris Avalon came into my Twitter feed and basically said that he did a lot of the side character writing more than the actual main plot. The plot is apparently a product of Arcane themselves. So don't go in thinking this is a Chris Avalon game. Apparently he did some contract writing work for them, but this is not, his baby. Just to clear that up because I know there were some people that were thinking this is like a Chris Avalon game. That said, I'm enjoying the story. It has all the good parts and all the bad parts of a System Shock or BioShock story. By that I mean it has your ham-fisted metaphors. For example, you meet one robot that wants you to do one thing called January, and another robot that wants you to do another thing called December. That is some pretty obvious metaphor setting up there. But basically the plot is you are part of the super rich Yu family, YU, and they own or are the sort of matriarch and patriarchs of TranStar, this mega company that has a space station orbiting Earth way, way up in space. And you wake up and you find out that you have no memory of what's been going on over the past 3 years because they have been doing neuro experiments on you, and every time they remove a neuromod, it resets your memory. So you've been sort of CEO up here for 3 years until they, decided to do experiments on you and yanked the neuromod out of your head, and that reset your memory back to when you first were going up to the space station. So much like System Shock, and much like BioShock, there's this period of questionable things happening, and so you're doing things for agents you can't fully trust, which is, again, very System Shock, BioShock.
It is like if you go into this thinking like this is going to be a BioShock, a System Shock, an 0451 Shock game, then you probably have a pretty good idea of where the story is going to go.
Yes, up to and including the random flashes that signify an upcoming twist. The signposting of the twist.
Yeah.
I haven't got to whatever the twist is yet, but I have got the little flashes of light that signify something else is going on. So structurally, it is very much an 0451 game. One gets the sense that Prey, the franchise title, was smacked on after the fact because
yeah, I was going to ask about that next. Actually, yeah, I was like, I don't remember Prey. I never played it. I don't remember like it having a great deal of fanfare. I don't think it was like this at all.
No. The original 2006 Prey was the game where you played as Tommy Hawk, the Native American first-person shooter hero. I wish I was joking. Actually, is that his final name? They may have changed that. Let me see if that's still the name.
I don't want to go to the Wikipedia page on predation. Thank you.
No, they changed his name to Damasi Tawodi.
Okay, so they fixed that.
Tommy Tawodi.
No, I was remembering the version of his name back when 3D Realms was developing the game, so I apologize for that. But yes, at one point in the 3D Realms version of this game, he was Tommy Hawk. This, of course, was done by the same people who bring you Duke Nukem and Bombshell the Babe. So, yeah. The Human Head version of the game had a little bit more respect towards Native Americans, clearly, but it has very little to nothing to do with the Prey that we ended up getting. And what I believe happened, and this is based on literally zero evidence and just a gut thought that I've seen, there's a power in Prey called Psycho Shock that lets you, sort of blast some psi out and do some other special effects. I feel like that was the working title for this game because, BioShock...
Psycho Shock.
Well, and obviously they didn't want to launch the game with that title.
Right.
And I think that's why it ended up being called something else, and maybe they settled on Prey because they had the IP as it recently got freed up from shutting down the Human Head sequel. So that would be my guess based on literally zero evidence. Don't tell anybody that. That's not legit. That's just like... My gut instinct tells me that BioShock involved genetic modifications in plasmids. System Shock involved, having a sort of hacker rig that connected your body to a cybernetic rig. This game is all about upgrading your mind with neuro upgrades and neuromods. Psycho Shock seems like it would have been a name that would have made sense for that kind of a game.
I can really see like ZeniMax just stepping in and going, no, you are not calling it Psycho Shock.
I half would assume it would have been a joking working title anyway, but just like moving away from genetics and into sort of the human mind seems to be where they're going with this. And which is the other reason that it feels like System Shock, because Psy is back. It's now called Psyonix again. Anyway. It has almost nothing to do with Prey, as far as I can tell. I haven't even seen an Easter egg. There's like nothing, no connective tissue. So it is literally an IP they had sitting around, and they threw it out there.
Yeah. It's cool seeing Arcane Studios like do all these cool games with these really strong art direction and sort of aesthetic directions going on.
And not terrible
that's always been one of the
either.
great things about Dishonored. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the stories are probably the weakest parts of the Arcane games, and even then, they're not bad. I just wish these games sold more. I'm a little worried.
I thought, did Dishonored 2 not do all that well?
I feel like it was part of the everyone is having a sad face time at retail of 2016, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I guess.
And that story is kind of crap too, because NPD sales for they only count retail.
Yeah.
According to Wikipedia, it sold well in its first week. Sales dropped off a little quickly, but it seemed to do okay.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing like a story about, because Dishonored 2 was the first game that Bethesda pushed out this like our review embargo is the release date thing. In fact, we're not even going to give review copies to reviewers anymore before the game releases, because we don't like critical evaluations of our game before they come out. And I remember seeing a story that was basically like, despite the review embargo thing, Dishonored 2 is doing well.
Well, I'm hoping so, because both those games are really good.
Yeah. What else we got? Glitch. You got anything on in that little noggin of yours, niggling at you?
Man. If we're talking games, the only thing I've been able to think about at all lately is PlayerUnknown Battleground. Players Unknown Battleground.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
It's a stupid title for a good game. It only took like 80 iterations of the same thing to make me like it, because essentially, if you're not aware yet, somehow it's DayZ boiled down to the best parts, the best bits of DayZ or H1Z1 or etc. etc.
Yeah, that
boiled down to that sort of like
survival open PvP shooter.
Yeah, the PvP is all boiled down to this like very short thing, and you never feel like you lose anything, even if you do lose, which you do a lot because there's 100 other players per round. That's all I've been doing. I haven't been paying attention to news for other games. I really haven't had a lot of free time. So when I do have free time, it's been spent on PlayerUnknown Battleground. Players Unknown Battleground.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Maybe we should like pick a name like that for our fucking podcast.
Yeah, so that they have to say it 3 times. That way,
the
it
spoiler
really
warning
cements in their
casts podcast grounds.
Not Spodcast. Put that in an abbreviation.
Not Spodcast.
Get the brackets in there. Not Spodcast.
It's all one word.
Yeah,
not Spodcast. All caps.
I've been playing that game. It's a multiplayer game. I've been playing with a guy who's really bad at it. I have to hold his hand a lot. Chris and Ruts might know him. But yeah, that's been kind of miserable.
He really sucks.
He really does.
He's terrible.
Josh.
And never gets any kills.
I'm just kidding. We have fun with that. I don't know. There's not a lot to say about the game.
It's. I mean, we could talk. I mean, like I've been playing DayZ-esque. I was playing DayZ back in like 2012 with you, and some of our other friends, Randy Johnson.
I regret getting that game.
And, you know, it was always one of those things where you saw something that was like a glimmer of cool stuff there in DayZ, and that, like, that general idea loop of, like, go to the server, go and, like, try to find some guns, which takes several hours usually because they're not very plentiful, and then, like, try to, you know, set yourself up and take out all the other people who might come after your stuff, or go after them and sit in a tower and snipe people if you want. But
and I've played a lot of those kind of games. too.
Yeah.
Like, I played Rust. I played a couple other ones. I can't think of any of the names off the top of my head. Rust was the best one of all of them. But they all had the same problem of, like, for me, there's always some 12-year-old that's going to play the game more than me. And that 12-year-old is going to have all the best weapons, and they're going to come to my base or wherever I've stashed my stuff and steal it all while I'm not even there. And so, like, all of this effort is put into getting these things, and half the time I lose it when I'm not even engaged with the other players. And so, like, if the goal is to have this interesting sort of PvP dynamic, you never get that because it's always unbalanced. And when you finally feel like you're up to the point where you can challenge other people because there's, like, a plateau where everyone gets to, you wake up to find all your stuff is gone. So, I never really liked those sorts of games. But there were always, like you said, there's that little glimmer of, like, well, this could be interesting, you know. It's a bit more emergent as far as the combat's concerned, you know. It can come up in different ways, and it's that way it wasn't stale. It's not like something like Overwatch, which another game I really enjoy, where you can play it over and over again, but eventually you kind of get the gist of it. Games like DayZ, I feel like we're trying to capture this new sort of, it's different all the time, and you kind of have to be more active in it, but I think they missed the mark. But this game, Pub is a good game. I recommend it.
It's interesting because what you ended up with games like DayZ and to some extent Rust is like this mix of survival games like The Long Dark and Minecraft and a few other games where it's like this investment of starting from nothing and having to like find food and find shelter and find protection and get a gun and all of that rough and gritty survival stuff. But then it also tried to merge that with a lot of the tactical combat Arma stuff. And that's where I think you ended up having those games be kind of brutal for what we were looking for, I think. Because what we were looking for was the tense fun of a tactical fighting game without the investment of like an Arma that is just too much. There's too much in Arma. Arma is huge. Arma is really cool if that's your thing, but it borders on combat sim, not fun, tense tactical combat.
Arma feels like, I think the best way you could put Arma feels like a flight simulator for infantry combat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a first-person shooter in exactly those terms, and it doesn't use a lot of the mechanics that have been used to make first-person shooters easy to get into and play. It's designed to, simulate your physical body as a dude on the ground and, like, having a gun and having to deal with stuff like wind resistance and wind direction and bullet drop and all that kind of stuff.
The
and some of that
effect,
kind of translates into Battlegrounds, but...
Sorry, I played a lot of Call of Duty 4.
But like it's so much more complex than PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which uses a lot of that Arma DNA to make the game feel suitably realistic, I'd say.
Yeah. I hate it when games go overboard with realism, and I know that there's a niche for that.
Niche.
But yeah, I know there's a niche for that, but it kills the fun for me personally. I don't know, maybe that'll make me not popular, but like I could never get into simulator games because I don't have time to figure out all of that stuff. I just want to get in a game quickly and play it and have fun, and that's what PlayerUnknown's Battleground did, and it did it really well.
It's like an attempt to make Arma an arcadey game. Like it is which is weird because you're starting from such a simmy place that it still feels kind of realistic and tense, but it's also like compared to Arma, Quake 3. Like it is way simmier, way more arcadey. But by stripping out all of the survival crap that you normally find in Rust or DayZ, and focusing just on the combat, but not just on the combat, but on really rapid, quick fights, and a little bit of exploration, and making sure matches wrap up in like 30 minutes, you have this really, really distilled version of the best fights you could possibly get in DayZ or Arma, distilled down into something like that you can get that hit regularly, where in those other games you may have to play for 2 or 3 hours just to get one cool thing happen.
Yeah, and without compromising what makes those fights in DayZ and Arma so cool. Like it's like you could do this as just it's an arena shooter, but it wouldn't quite have the same feel of the Arma and the DayZ sort of like observing the environment, setting up for an engagement, trying to determine where people are, doing all this information warfare, head games kind of stuff. And PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds does all that really well.
I also, side note, I've also been playing a little Astroneer. It has more depth than I expected it to. Played a little bit of it today.
Is that a pun because we all died in caves?
Only Josh died in caves, and it was caves of my making. Did we all die?
You
at one
died
point in
that cave after I did, Glitch.
Oh yeah.
And then Mumbles went down into a cave and died, and Chris died in every cave that there was.
Well, congratulations.
Rutskarn's living in a cave.
He's the only one who hasn't died, though.
Yeah, fuck off from my cave.
But yeah, that's interesting. I'm excited to explore.
And all the caves were actually connected, and they were going to Rutskarn's cave. And he put out all the mushrooms and the no oxygen and everything to kill us all before we could get there.
He also tried to pit us against each other. This is all coming together.
Rutskarn's not the mission commander of Astroneer. He's the final boss.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, I wish I had anything to talk about myself. I've only been playing PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds. You're a bad influence on me, Glitch. Hey,
Josh.
I keep trying to get stuff done. I should edit stuff. No, come play a couple rounds. Okay. Then the editing doesn't get done.
Let's end the show and go play PlayerUnknown'S Battleground.
No, we need to do stuff. There's other stuff I have to take care of tonight.
Yeah, just one round though. Oh, but the first round is never good. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I need to delete this thing and give it to charity or something. Get this away from me.
I almost did that with Overwatch. If this had happened 2 weeks ago, I would have been talking about Overwatch exclusively because I was trying to get to Diamond. For anyone who plays, that's
and then you did.
Yeah, I did. I finally made it to Diamond. I was doing it wrong the whole time. I was playing with other people. I should have just solo queued the whole time.
I'm sorry I was such a bad influence on you.
It was bad. You did join me once when I was 2 games away, and then we fell really far. That was the season before, though. And that was bad. I was not happy. Maybe a little too blamey on you, even if it was your fault.
Well, thanks. This is I'm glad we touched on this. This had to be included in the podcast.
Yeah. No. Hey, I have a question. Mailbags. Is that something that you guys are still going to do?
Yeah, I don't... we don't...
We don't have anything right now, I assume.
So we're going to...
You know what it's called now?
What is it called now?
It's called YouTube comments.
Are we
God,
gonna...
no.
We are going to be responding to comments.
I was going to say, that's funny. But, if people were to, and maybe we should have done this before we started the podcast, if people wanted to ask us questions, how would they do that?
Well, right now, you can tweet at one of us, or...
One of us? You guys don't have a show Twitter?
No, we don't have a show Twitter.
I guess that would be me, Josh, after we play PlayerUnknown'S Battleground. After that, put together that Twitter.
This is what happens when your brother is a manager in a marketing department. Right now, if you want to send emails to the show that we can read, just email spoilerwarningshow@gmail.com, and I will collect those. Try to keep the questions not super long. Essays are hard to read and respond to on the show, but if you want to do a paragraph, that's fine. Ask about anything you fucking want to. We will answer questions about what is the best kind of pizza, and what is a sandwich, and actually just ask food questions. Just ask questions like I just asked right there, and we will answer those. And if you ask about video games, I'm sorry.
We will answer those.
I will
answer
those.
The next episode of this podcast will be Cooking with Josh or Cuthbert. Cooking with Cuthbert. And none of us will be here. It'll just be Josh. So send in your cooking questions.
I should do a fucking spin-off channel where I cook as Reginald Cuthbert.
there's a lot of production value in that. I'm having
Yeah,
all
I mean,
sorts
like
of
ideally
ideas.
we plan to get a website at some point, and then we'll have like a dedicated email for whatever the hell we call this thing, and then then you'll be able to send your stuff there, and also be able to comment on the show in a way not too dissimilar to the way that you could comment on 20-sided. So that's something in the pipeline. Also because people want RSS feeds, and I don't think you can do that for YouTube videos. But yeah, I guess that has been an episode of
Nope.
the Not Spodcast.
We did it. We weren't sure we could, but we made an episode of a show.
I don't even, when we were setting up, Rutskarn was just like, "Fuck it, let's do it live and figure out the name on the show." I don't feel like we've succeeded at this goal.
We literally got one suggestion and both hated and stuck with it.
We can't even use that. It's another podcast that exists somewhere.
You said existed. I heard you say
Why
it earlier.
don't we just have people? Why don't we just have people post their suggestions in the comments of this episode? That way we can pass the buck for another week and then blame everyone else when it doesn't go right.
I like your thinking. That gives Josh more time to play PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds with me.
I can't. I have one fucking round.
Yes.
And then I'm done. And then we're not touching it again for at least another 30 minutes.
I love that game.
Someone send me help. I need help.
I can send you help, Josh. I'll give you my next 4X scope.
No.
Alright, I'll keep the 4X scope and the 8X. They're all mine.
Stop it. Okay, goodbye everybody. Say goodbye everyone. Did Chris and Rutskarn die?
No.
we don't respond to your orders. This is a mutiny.
Chris.
What?
Oh, there you are.
I've been here. I've been trying to think of something
ludonarrative
clever to do.
Say ludonarrative dissonance.
No.
Okay, here's a good question for the first episode of whatever the hell this is. I don't know where ludonarrative dissonance came from or why it's funny. I still find it funny. Does somebody want to elaborate?
Whatever the hell this is was a good name proposal. I could go with that.
There's probably a whatever the hell this is podcast.
All right, I'm looking.
To the Google.
To answer your question, Glitch, it's a mishmash of words of different languages. Ludo is derived from the Latin ludic, which means play.
I know what.
Holy shit!
I know what the term means. Why is it something that Chris says? What's the context for you?
Because he did a video about ludonarrative dissonance.
Just one video?
And then we made fun of him for doing that because that's what we do here.
You guys need to get better jokes. You know where you can find better jokes? At Wendy's. Come down, get Wendy's Spicy Crispy Chicken Sandwich right now, today.
This is going to be a thing, isn't it?
Just that once. I needed it just that once.